Welcome to a very special masterclass in Mindvalley Academy. We don't normally do masterclasses that go so deep into spiritual topics like this, but because of the amazing impact of this teacher and what we're going to cover, because it's so relevant to the world today, we thought we'll bring this to you. Today we're going to talk about traumas, but you're going to go more than just learn about traumas. You're going to go on a new journey to understand how, according to our teacher today, Deborah King, traumas impact us in unseen ways. These could be traumas that you're conscious of. It could be the trauma of heartbreak, or it could be something that happened that was so painful that you've buried it down and have tried to forget it. Abuse, for example. But the thing is, because we are fundamentally spiritual beings having a human physical experience, the emotions and the energy of these traumas often linger with us. They hold us back from our true potential. What you're going to learn in this class from Deborah King is why we store trauma. You're going to go through a really unique exercise that takes you on a journey of trauma healing. And you're going to learn how to take yourself to new levels of spiritual awareness. Despite being an engineer and a computer scientist, I've come to understand that there's so much more to us than just our physical meat bodies, and that often the way to grow ourselves as human beings is to pay attention to the subtle energies that linger and mold us, and to do our best to expand our consciousness, to go beyond just what we can see with our physical eyes, and into those energetic levels that allow us to live our true potential. So let me tell you about our teacher today. Deborah is no stranger to trauma. She's dealt with and gone through things you would never want to experience in your life. But each of the traumas that she went through helped awaken her to her true purpose in life and what she was really meant to give to the world as her gift. She's gone from being a burnt-out lawyer to a remarkable healer. She's gone from being diagnosed with cancer in her mid-20s to being in vibrant health. And she's done this as she traveled the world studying with many masters in places all across the planet. She's had numerous appearances on ABC, NBC, CNN, and Fox. W Magazine calls her work electrifying. So what you're about to glimpse from Deborah is how powerful you can be when you learn to work with and harness your energy body. This won't make you bulletproof, but it will make sure that no matter what happens in your life, you're able to deal with it with newfound powers and abilities that few bother to unleash. It allows you to heal quickly, bounce back better, and live a life true to your calling. Furthermore, in this masterclass, you learn to align yourself with your highest spiritual purpose. As a special bonus in this class, Deborah is going to guide you through a special meditation called the Violet Flame, and it's designed to help you heal traumas that might be holding you back in life, whether these traumas are at the conscious level, meaning you're aware of them, or completely unconscious. If you stay till the end, you get a special bonus where we will actually give you a link where you can download and keep this exercise for the rest of your life so you can re-listen to it and share it with friends. Before we begin, I'd like to share with you some of the beautiful stories that people in our Mindvalley community shared with us about what happened in their lives when they studied Deborah's work. So here's just a quick idea of what many leading authorities in spirituality and healing have said about Deborah King. Louise Hay, the New York Times bestselling author of You Can Heal Your Life, one of the definitive books in the field, said, "I have seen people stand in line for hours just to get a moment with Deborah King. People just love her and her healing work." The phenomenal Neil Donald Walsh of Conversations with God said, "Deborah King is a guide for all seekers of higher truth who are destined to fulfill their purpose of helping others by first healing themselves." And she's also getting a growing fan base in Hollywood. Kevin West, editor of W Magazine, from an article called Healing Hollywood Style, said, "Along with other seekers, sufferers, and spectators, I'm here to witness one of King's healings, where she offers to treat anyone who will publicly put himself in her healing hands. King's demonstration has been electrifying." Jay Adams, owner of Flight Zone TV and the host of the Emmy Award-winning Breakthrough Medicine, said, "If you are looking for truth, light, and a straightforward approach to unlocking your hidden potential, master healer and teacher Deborah King delivers." And thank you all for tuning in. Now let's get started. So, in a moment, I'm going to bring on Deborah. Before we begin, take out your workbook, and I'm going to quickly guide you in about 90 seconds through these 9 questions. I want you to give yourself a score of 0 to 10, 10 being highest, 0 being, well, 0. So the first question is, how ready are you to let go of past traumas and emotional wounds today? Now, these questions are important because they are setting intention. Question number 2, how ready are you to learn valuable tools to contribute to your spiritual evolution? Question number 3, how ready are you to learn valuable tools to contribute to your physical health, peace of mind, and success in your professional and personal lives? Question number 4, how much do you feel your thoughts, meaning your internal language, and your words, meaning your external language, impact your reality? Question 5, do you feel you have past experiences that have created a mental or emotional conditioning that you have trouble letting go of? Question 6, do you feel something is holding you back, even though you're taking all the right actions towards a goal? Question 7, do you have fears or insecurities as a result of some past experience or trauma? 8, do you have strong aversion to a particular person or event, but your logical mind just can't reason why? And question 9, are you ready to begin implementing the techniques and info you learn in the session today? And I hope you give that an 8, 9, or 10. Now, with that said, let's bring on our special teacher for today, Deborah King. Deborah, how are you?
Good, Vishen. Great to be here.
It's such an honor to have you on our program.
Thank you.
What we're about to go into now is stuff that we don't normally bring on to Mindvalley Academy. You see, this is deeper spiritual stuff than we typically bring on our program. But I want you guys to keep an open mind. Deborah is a phenomenal teacher. And the last time we launched this program with Deborah, which was in 2016, we had 2,300 students enroll. And the feedback was amazing, which is why we're so delighted to have you back in our program. I'm going to leave it to you. Let's begin the training.
All right. So what I'm going to start with is talking about trauma. No one escapes it. Trauma is something that really affects your personal energy field. That's that bubble of light you're sitting inside of right now. So it really matters what kind of shape your energy field is in. If you have an emotional or physical disturbance, it not only affects your energy field, but it also affects your body. And you aren't going to feel okay until you remove the trauma from both your body and your field. So maybe your wounds go back to childhood. Perhaps you were neglected or abused or bullied. Think of all the insults that come from being different in some way. Perhaps you're different from your family or different from your culture. You may have experienced trauma, even before birth. You may have hung on to something that is sitting in your energy field and in your body. But what's the cost? Maybe you had an abortion and you shoved it under the carpet and thought no big deal, and then you wonder today you can't get pregnant and you're trying to. My husband and I, we had a really serious mountain climbing accident when we were in our 30s, and he wasn't even expected to survive. I ended up with such severe PTSD. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't drive, but I repressed the whole thing. I just told people I was fine. I just kept going. So when you go through trauma, chances are you didn't know how to clear it. You left it in your body, you buried it, and then you wonder why you're having, say, trouble sleeping. You're trying to get on with your life. And then the next thing you know, you have an eating disorder, or you're just stressed out of your mind. Your doctor is trying to put you on anti-anxiety meds. And 10 years later, maybe you develop a disease process or you're terribly depressed. I know about this because it happened to me. Let me tell you just a little bit of my own story. I grew up in a household where I was sexually abused as a child. My father grew up in a household where he was sexually abused as a child, and he passed that pattern on in himself. Now, my mother knew, but she didn't do a thing to protect me. She was a young, very young gal and just didn't know how to handle it. Now, as a teenager and a young adult, I ran wild, and I turned to famous coping mechanisms like alcohol, Valium, extreme sports, you name it, I tried it. I was trying to bury the uneasiness, the distress that I didn't want to think about. So I was just a year out of law school, and I heard those words no one wants to hear. I had the doctor tell me, "You have cancer." Wow, what a wake-up call that was. And I was just 25. So I had to come up with some sort of a plan. The first thing I did was I decided to get some clarity. The treatment for cervical cancer at that time was pretty radical surgery. I wasn't anxious to, jump into it. I asked the doctors, how much time do I have? And they gave me a few months. And the first thing I thought of was to get clear. So I went to a 12-step program and I got control of my addictions. I got past the alcohol and the Valium. Now, being in a 12-step program rekindled my connection to spirit. But that wasn't enough. I still knew I had to figure out what was the cause of the cancer. So I started writing down my emotions. I didn't know I had any. And so I actually got a list of emotions and started writing them down in the briefs, the sides of my legal briefs. And when I realized I was feeling jealousy, I'd write J. And if I realized I was feeling anxious or A, and a big A for anger, I came up with these codes. And within not very long, I realized I had some fairly significant emotions that could very well have had something to do with my cancer. I also realized that I was repressing my childhood. Journaling gave me one of the tools I needed to release buried feelings about my childhood. It also became my first book, by the way. So you may have a book in you too. Then I learned to meditate one-on-one with a teacher. What an eye-opener that was. Now, about a year later, I went to training to learn how to be a teacher of meditation. I went to the ashram, and I ran into my teacher there, and he broke the code of silence, and he said to me, when I taught you how to meditate, you were fairly unique. I would peek at you, and while you were meditating, your whole body would shake. He said, I went back and I called headquarters, and I said, what's the deal with this? And they said, we're seeing more and more of that now with Vietnam vets. That's post-traumatic stress syndrome. Once you realize that trauma is a part of you and part of being human, the question becomes, how do you cope with it? So when you're at survival level, and we've all been there, you're basically kind of undeveloped in your consciousness. You live from catastrophe to catastrophe. I remember that stage so well. When you're hit with trauma, you have to have some coping skills, and you tend to grab the first thing that you're taught. Most of the time that kind of behavior is just as self-destructive as the original trauma. In fact, it can kind of snowball and not only postpone the problem, but make it worse. But let's talk about defense mechanisms that you may be using to deal with trauma. I've used every single one of these at one time or another. So one is disassociation. That's actually separating your consciousness from the event. That's what I did when I was a small child. I never repressed it. I always remembered it. But there were two of me. I even had two names for myself. And it was the other little girl that did the bad things and had the bad things happen to her. The real me was never really affected. Now, this kind of trick, this kind of disassociation, that's very risky for your psyche. So I definitely don't recommend it. Now, another really popular one, of course, is acting out. And I'm sure you've tried this, right? We act out. We try drugs or alcohol, or we have an eating disorder, or prescription drugs abuse, or promiscuity. I mean, it's endless, the kinds of acting out we can come up with. They all have, unfortunately, really bad side effects. Now, another coping mechanism that perhaps you have tried is repression. I mentioned that a minute ago. That's where you purposefully forget, and it can come with distortion. That's where you convince yourself that black is white and that nothing bad happened. Remember that mountain climbing accident I told you that my husband and I had? Well, 6 months later, I could not remember a thing about the accident. It was as if it had never happened. But trauma surfaced in my life in other ways. I remember developing a really annoying speech impediment after the accident, which is not a good thing for a trial attorney to have. And I had a host of food allergies that suddenly surfaced out of nowhere. So repression is not a good solution. How about denial? That's another coping mechanism, right? And it's the kissing cousin of repression. That's when you know your partner's cheating on you, but you pretend it isn't true. Here's another example of denial at work. One of my graduate students, a gal named Kathy, she told me she hitched a ride to school one day and was forced into sex with the driver. And she denied to herself it ever happened. She didn't want to have her parents find out. And 25 years later, you know, she's coming to me to help get it processed out of her energy field and out of her body. So you can't live with that kind of shame and self-blame. It just eats you alive and can cause all kinds of physical and emotional problems. Now, other coping mechanisms that you may be familiar with are resentment and revenge. Also super poor choices, right? They make us sick, and they don't clear the original wound. That's like my friend Rodney. He spent his entire life getting even for what he considered injustices, and then the next thing he knew, he was dead and he was 50. So there are better ways to cope, and when you manage to move from the survival mode that we've just been discussing to a higher state of consciousness, you'll find that there are skills that not only help you cope, but also help you heal the original wound. Now, I remember hitting this stage. I was so excited to finally get some tools that actually worked. So here you're mostly focused inward, and this is totally right at this stage of your development. It also works really well if your wound is very fresh. So typical tools at this level are therapy and counseling, group work, journaling like I mentioned before, even crying or screaming and breath work can help. Receiving energy healing, that's my field. So I have a student in one of my advanced programs whose husband just died just a few months ago. And I was amazed to see her on a group video call recently and talking about how vulnerable and raw she felt. I was very impressed because this shows consciousness. This shows that she had so much self-awareness. She knew how she felt. She didn't feel numb or frozen. She could feel her feelings. So that's really impressive. So remember, advancing spiritually doesn't mean you have to have a totally carefree life. There is no such thing. You chose to come into this lifetime, and as a pure spirit in the etheric realm, you don't have an opportunity, remember, to test and ramp up your spirituality. You get that chance when you're here and you have a body and you're in relationship with other people. So you chose to have this lifetime. You actually chose to. And what an opportunity. That means that, though, that inevitably you will have some trauma. As you move through your lifetime and you're trying to figure out how to handle the pain, the more you move up spiritually, the more that you develop better coping skills, the more you can move up. So at this stage, you're becoming the wounded healer. Now, as your focus turns to helping other people, you're making a conscious choice to minimize your own pain and maximize your joy so you can contribute to the well-being of, the whole planet. So there are some spiritual practices that work both inwardly, the ones I just described, as well as outwardly. These are the ones that you're going to focus on when you start to turn your attention outside yourself. Let's name some of those tools. You could share your story. One of my grad students mentioned on a video call that she figured out that she had repressed her abortion experience. She heard me teaching about it. She came to this realization. She said, I want to teach on that. I want to have a call where I can help others recover from their abortion experiences. So sharing is one of the best ways to process your trauma. Then there's energy healing. Every time you conduct healing energy to another, it comes through you first, so you too are healed. That's a win-win. Or you could be of service in whatever capacity feels right to you. You can raise your vibration, so you have a personal vibration, and your job here on earth is actually to raise that vibration. One of the ways to do that is to release your traumas. So what I'm going to do now is to lead you on a journey. This is an out-of-body excursion. We're going to visit the great ascended master, Saint Germain, at the Temple of the Violet Flame. Are we ready for this vision?
Absolutely. But before that, I have a question, Deborah.
Yeah.
What would you say for people who may not be consciously aware of traumas that had happened to them? Can we have such a thing as unconscious traumas? Things that happen to us that are affecting us, but we've forgotten?
We can, absolutely. And they're more commonly happen when we're very young, like under the age of 7. Most of us don't remember things that happened to us before we're 7, and typically because it's so traumatizing, as I was just mentioning, that they repress it and don't recall it later. And this exercise that I'm going to be doing in a minute can release you from those repressed unconscious traumas.
So for those of us watching, even if you don't consciously remember a trauma you may have experienced in your younger years, this exercise will still work for us.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. And the second question is, you are going to be calling upon Saint Germain, who I believe is
Ascended Master.
an ascendant master. Okay. What about people who might not be of the Christian faith?
Oh, he's not Christian. That's such a great question. Saint Germain is, the saint, I think, is just a complimentary term.
I see. Thanks for clarifying. I asked that question because our community here comes from over 100 countries and just about every faith out there.
The work I teach is always sort of beyond religion, it's trans-religious, and I will refer to saints and seers from every religion and every culture, kind of indiscriminately.
Right.
I borrow from them all.
Right, and that's wonderful, and that's something I appreciate about you as a teacher. Let's get on with the exercise.
All right. So back to Saint Germain. He has this amazing place. He has this temple of the violet flame, and when I take you there, this will be the place for you to release any old trauma, one you remember or one you think you might have had or one you have no recollection of at all. Now, if you're driving right now or you're really busy and you're on your feet, you'd probably want to save this experience for later. Be perfect if you could sit in a quiet space and have your feet on the floor. That will help pull the energy up from Mother Earth. And you can close your eyes if you like and take in a deep breath and just let it out. You just want to relax and take in another deep breath and just know how safe you are. And now I invoke the protection of Archangel Michael as we go on this journey together. So Michael's an archangel that you are very likely already connected with. He's always around to help us out. And I call upon his power and his might. And you picture him, he's standing right in front of you. You know, he's got that bright blue cape and that sword of blue flame, and he wields that sword anytime you need it. Just feel the strength and power of his presence. And that allows us now to go higher. And still with your eyes closed, just feel how relaxed your body is. Just relax even more. And in your mind's eye, visualize a soft golden light. It's coming down from above. Allow it to just surround all of you and feel washed by its clean, pure light. Feel it opening your heart and opening your mind. And imagine, go with me as you're lifted up by that golden light. You're safe, you're comfortable, and we're going high above this planet. We're going higher and higher. And we're traveling around the globe. And we come to an astral location. Now we're on the 5th level of the astral plane. And this is where we find the Ascended Master, Saint Germain. Just sense him walking toward you. Maybe you can see him in your mind's eye. He's a really tall man. He's over 6 feet tall. He's got that beautiful brown hair and brown eyes. You might sense the fragrance of violets. They always precede his presence. Now he's dressed in a gold-encrusted purple cape. It looks very old world. And in most loving tone, he says to you, "Why have you come here?" Now, on your behalf, and join with me in this, let's tell him that you're ready to visit the Temple of the Violet Flame. This is his temple. This is a temple that transmutes the energy of the old. We'll just displace all that old trauma that's trapped inside you. So Saint Germain, he's a cosmic father. He's working to protect and purify and enlighten mankind. He's working for us every day. He used to live here on earth, and now he lives above. And he directs us to the Temple of the Violet Flame. And so with me, we'll walk along a path. Just see it in front of you. It's leading to that white structure. It's out there in the distance. Notice that it's in the form of a Maltese cross, that 8-pointed cross. And as we stand at the entrance, I want you to look right into the center point of the temple. And right in the center, you'll see a radiant pillar of violet light, looking just like a flame. That's a flame of divine love. Now, the very center of that flame, the action of that flame, it increases your vibration. It increases it to a level that no imperfection, no discord can live in you anymore. So all of that discord caused by your old trauma, it's just being released. It's being released through the flame, through the use of the flame. It's freeing you from old, dense karma. So stand directly in front of the flame. Stand directly there. There's no heat from this flame. It's like an earthly fire, but it's not hot. It's moving rapidly. Feel it moving right through you and over you and around you. Be engulfed by this great pillar of violet light. Allow it to come upward through your body, up through your field, up through your head, and right into your 8th chakra. That's above your head. Sense your 8th chakra just above your head. And on your behalf, I invoke this flame, this blessed flame. I invoke it, and may its divine grace, its mercy, its love, its forgiveness blaze through you and expand through your entire being. And allow it to transmute any and all negative karma, any and all negative energy, anything that you've created, anything you've brought forward from previous times, anything you've done in your own thoughts, words, or deeds, whether in the past, the present, or the future. Transmute everything that prevents you from embodying your highest good, your highest vibration. Allow the flame to do that for you now. Now join with me and ask the flame to transmute some specific trauma. If you have something specific in mind, just picture it and with me ask the flame to release it. Anything that stands in the way of your ascension into higher consciousness. And with that intent and with the feeling behind that intent, that's what brings forth the spiritual alchemy of this transmutation. Keep feeling that violet flame as it's passing through you. It might feel like bubbles, bubbles of light. You might feel lighter, you might feel happier. You're feeling the great purity of your own love and your own forgiveness. And you're letting go of those old wounds and mistaken beliefs. You're just releasing them now into the flame. And all your old distress and your old limitations, your impurities and struggles, they're all just disappearing. Just allow those old traumas to pass right out the top of you, right out the top of your head, and allow them to be consumed by the flame. Doesn't matter what they were, they're consumed. Doesn't matter what you did, it's gone. It just rises to heaven like smoke from incense. And now with me, let's bow our heads in gratitude. Gratitude to Saint Germain for establishing this temple and this flame. And let's vow to help Saint Germain by being light workers for this planet. Now visualize that flame surrounding the entire planet, all of Earth, helping all of humanity to transmute negativity and ascend into the freedom that we deserve. And now we start back. We leave the temple, we go back on the path. You're returning with me. And we're coming down through the levels, down, down, down. We're coming back home, we're safe and sound. We're relieved of burdens. You should feel lighter of heart and happier and even more recharged. And so now gently open your eyes and welcome back. And how did that go, Vishen?
It's really interesting. As you asked us to immerse ourselves in the violet flame and think about traumas very rapidly, 4 or 5 things came to me. But I wonder, what about the ones that I'm not conscious of? Are those also being impacted by this?
Oh, absolutely, they are. Yeah, this will release any trauma in your energy field or body. It doesn't need to be conscious.
What I find really interesting about these folks is that I've every now and then in my journeys, traveling around the world, meeting incredible teachers like you, come across people who were healers or psychics. Every now and then when I've worked with an energy healer to help release something, I've seen a massive healing in my life. And that healing had impacted me in terms of my love relationships, or my financial life, or my health. This is why we wanted to invite you guys to experience this. Now keep in mind, if you stay till the end of the masterclass, as a reward, you will get a link, which is a downloadable recording of this exercise. So with that link, you can download, keep this exercise, use it anytime, and go through the violet flame in your own time. Deborah, back to you.
All right, so, I want to tell you a little bit about another method that I discovered, and this is the most exciting thing that actually ever happened to me. So as I continue to work on myself, I'm trying to release these old traumas. I'm trying to get past the cancer. I heard about something else that if I went to Asia, I could find. So I went to Nepal, where I discovered the sutras. Let me tell you what they are. So technically, sutras are a collection of mystical phrases. They go back about 5,000 years. Now, I have this course, Be a Modern Master, and on this course, I teach the sutras. They have an amazing impact on your body and your psyche and on old trauma. And after I was given the sutras, and I'd been practicing them perhaps a week, we were in a group, of course. I was a student. I was learning them. I was in an ashram and seated on the floor with all the other students. I started to hear all this screaming. And I thought, well, this is really disturbing. Isn't the head teacher going to do something about this? So they had a system. If you had a problem during the course, you could put your hand up and you'd go out of the room. So I met the teacher outside the room, and the teacher said, "What's going on for you?" Well, I said, can't you do something? You hear that screaming. And the teacher said, "You're the only one that's hearing them. Those screams are inside of you." I was horrified. She said, "Yeah, those screams are something you've submerged, perhaps something you've kept inside for many years, and the sutra process is releasing them." She said, "Just don't focus on it. As you know the teachings now, you don't focus on experiences you're having. You just keep working with the sutras." So I did as I was instructed, and the next thing I knew, it was one day the screams stopped and never returned. It was about the same time my cancer disappeared. So I was very impressed. I was blown away by this. I've never heard the screams since then, and I must have done a lot of holding in as a child. So why would you want to learn these sutras? Well, they were by far the most powerful practice I've ever learned, and the most incredible thing I did for myself in terms of releasing trauma. I would love for you to have it. So sutras have to be seated. That's placed in you by someone like myself who's trained to plant them in you so they take root and so they can do their work. And to be fertile enough ground to receive the sutras, you need a spiritual foundation. You need a basic meditation practice, and that is part of my program. I also teach you how to meditate, and I even give you your own mantra, so I know you've got a really good, strong meditation practice to put the sutras on top of. So the sutras will help you more than anything else I can suggest to impact you in a way that will straighten out whatever's bothering you, whether it's you've got health issues, relationship issues, career issues, and of course spiritual issues. This is an amazing opportunity. These develop remarkable gifts in you, by the way. You just don't know what the sutras might bring to you personally, because each one of you have your own nascent gifts. You have these gifts inside of you that are you came to earth to share with others, and the next thing you know, you start doing sutras, your gifts will simply open to you. Maybe you're meant to be a world-class speaker. Maybe you're meant to write a book. Maybe you're meant to invent something important, and the sutras can ramp you up to the next level and make that possible.
Or in your case, help you overcome an illness that was holding you back.
Right.
And this is why we've been working with Deborah to bring Becoming a Modern Master to Mindvalley Academy. This is the highest end spiritual program on Mindvalley up till now. And I guess you could think of it this way. All of us come to earth with a certain level of consciousness. And I believe we are all spiritual beings having a human experience. And this human experience is designed to help us learn, to help us grow, to occasionally hit us into the ground, but it's simply a way for us to emerge into our best selves. And one of our jobs here on planet Earth is to expand this level of consciousness. There are many different ways you can expand your level of consciousness. And this is why we wanted to bring this program onto Mindvalley Academy, take it to the next level. The more you practice these tools, the more you expand your consciousness, the more you start seeing that different dimensions of your life that may have been stagnated or held back start to expand. Your levels of love relationships, your financial abundance, your health and well-being, your connectivity with other people. One of the most beautiful things about these practices, Deborah, I remember us having this conversation, is how it opens up your heart to more compassion and connectedness with the people around you. You start becoming like an all-round, warm, fuzzy, nice person. I remember when my team came to your house to film you, they were blown away by how warm you were, how welcoming you were. We could feel that energy in a room. And this is what becoming a modern master does to you. It gets you to the next levels of your spiritual development. Now, it isn't for everyone. This program requires an open mind, and it requires that you are not just diving into this with no meditation practice or no grounding into these spiritual sciences, which is why when you enroll in this program, you actually get a bonus meditation program to take with you called Life Force Healing, because this is some advanced stuff, and we want to make sure that you have a stable meditation process supporting you as you go into this. A couple of years ago, we would not have dared bring a program like this to market. The world was not ready. I was recently talking to Ken Wilber, who's America's greatest living philosopher. And we were talking about the concept of oneness, these states of being where you suddenly feel one with the entire world. And Ken said something really interesting. Ken Wilber said that prior to the mid-'80s, psychologists in America were diagnosing people who would come to them and say, you know, I had this crazy experience. I suddenly felt one with all life. They were diagnosing that as dementia. And they would give you medicine to get you away from that. It was only in the mid-1980s, after Ken published one of his first books, a seminal work called States of Consciousness, something along those lines, that the diagnosis changed and people started to realize that these were real feelings that people were having. Now, even then, it's now been some 30 years, and there is still skepticism about human states of awareness, and we don't blame people for that, but there's so much that we're now discovering about our inner states. One of the things is that as you elevate your levels of consciousness, beautiful things start happening in your life. When you study becoming a modern master, here are a couple of things that our students have reported. Number one, you start developing a steady spiritual practice. It no longer feels like you're just meditating and clearing your mind. Your meditations have a certain amount of depth to it. You have intuitive connections. You feel energy. You feel beautiful feelings of vibrations or a buzz, we call it, as you're meditating. You start unlocking gifts in your life. At a certain point in my life, after I'd been meditating for about 10 years, I started developing the ability to channel. I would decide I wanted to write a particular blog post or article, and it would just come to me smoothly with no planning. Now, many people start unlocking these gifts as they practice programs such as Becoming a Modern Master. You start to release old traumas, and when that happens, it almost feels like a belief system that you had about the world. You shed. It's like shedding old skin. And when you shed these belief systems, beautiful things start unfolding in your life, because all of you know our unconscious beliefs affect our reality as much as our conscious beliefs. But it is harder to shed unconscious beliefs. You can't just, go and pop a pill. It takes a certain amount of spiritual practice to cause these beliefs to peel off ourselves like the layers of an onion. You start gaining ability to cope with stress, to cope with new things in your life in wholly different ways. In fact, for many people, stress stops being a construct in the world. Stress just no longer bugs you. Many people report that they start having better sleep, or, oddly enough, they start requiring less sleep to function in the world. People report feelings of more intuition. And one of my greatest things, which I love hearing people talk about, is feelings of greater compassion to all life on the planet. Mindvalley's highest value is the concept of unity. We are really humanism disguised as a company. And one of our greatest missions is to connect the world and make people feel greater affinity to not just other people of different cultures, but to all life on the planet, Earth itself, plants and animals. And as you start practicing these spiritual practices, something shifts within you. And those feelings of connectivity start becoming more and more and more common. And this is why it was so important for us to bring this program to the world. If you're interested in enrolling in this program, all the information is below this masterclass video. And on this page, as a thank you for investing the last hour or so watching this masterclass, you can enroll with a special unlock price. It's only available on this page, so do not close this page, because this is an even better enrollment price than anything out there currently on Mindvalley Academy. Deborah, I'd love for you to go a little bit deeper and tell us how this 6-week program is structured.
So in the first chapter, what we do is we establish a ground for learning how to clear your internal and external space. So I'll introduce you to some of the most ancient Hindu Vedas, and I'll start working with you with the sutras. I'll bring in the goddess Saraswati. She's key here. We'll invoke her to help you learn this practice. And I will start right in the first week, the first chapter, seeding the first 5 of these 20 key sutras in you. So there are 20 total, but they come in a sequence. And the first 5 have the power to clear old trauma. That's what they're known for. That's what they do. And I'll also give you a special guided meditation on silence in that first chapter.
Deborah, quick question. How much time investment is week 1?
I'd say an hour to an hour and a half, plus maybe 10 or 15 minutes for the homework.
Okay, so you're basically watching a video. This is the training video, 60 to 90 minutes. And then there's homework. And this might be meditation. It might be special practices Deborah's going to teach you how to do. That's 10 to 20 minutes a day.
Perfect for the fast-moving.
The busy, crazy, fast-moving people that you are. Let's go on to week 2.
So in week 2, I'm going to make sure that you have a really solid spiritual basis for the sutras. I don't want you to have them floating above. I want them to be seated in you very, very deeply. And so here's where I work with the mantra that you have by that point. I'll work with its frequency in you, and I'll help you get into the gap. So there's a gap between your thoughts, basically, a little tiny gap, and that's where you really meditate. And I'll show you how to get there and how not to worry about distractions and not to worry about your thoughts, because of course you're human, so I hope you're thinking it's not something to worry about. Now let's get to week 3. So here's where I really get into the gifts of the sutras. Here's where you can leap into your spiritual powers and start thinking about which gifts are yours. Will they be physical powers? Will they be psychic abilities? It's whatever spirit intended for you to have in this lifetime. And I promise you they'll develop. If you'll do this sutra practice, they will develop. Now for week 4, I'm going to go into initiations quite a bit. So what's an initiation? It's your vibration increasing. So you may have heard about initiatory processes, and this is actually the hallmark of my work, is initiating people. So in the spiritual scheme of thing, you are meant to ramp up your vibration while you're here. You have to take those lemons that life delivered you, and you make lemonade out of that stuff, right? And that prepares you for your next initiation. And then I come along and I help you initiate. That's my job. I'm just a midwife. And so they can happen anywhere, anytime, but they need facilitating. You need a facilitator. And also in that week, I will do an ancient invocation and seed the final 2 sutras in you. So at that point, you'll have all 20. Now, in week 6, I'm going to teach you some more amazing things, like some yogic practices like mudras. Those are hand positions. Pranayam, that's a breathing technique. And you're free to use those and use them to help further seat the sutras. Plus, this is a really fun item, I'm going to explore with you the 7 spiritual rays of light. Now I'm talking about what's often referred to as the Great Brotherhood. Here's what we're talking about, the Ascended Masters. An Ascended Master like Saint Germain. Remember, we met him earlier today. And there's a master in charge of each ray of light. And each ray of light connects to one of the levels of initiation. And then in week 6, I will take you again through the full 20 sutras, really seat them deeply in you so their magic can unfold for you.
So when you go through this program, what happens is you end up reaping the rewards of a solid base in the sutras, There's less stress. You start releasing all traumas. There's more self-assurance in your life. You feel a greater connection to your life purpose. And most of all, you have this ramped up desire to use your special gifts to better the world. Deborah, so I know a lot of people are wondering, how effective is this given that they are watching you on video versus, say, a live training?
Well, I wondered about that. I really did. I thought hard about teaching sutras in this fashion, thought about it for years. But I started to have experiences where I was live streaming live workshops, and at the same time someone was being Skyped in on the screen. And one day I saw this gal initiating on the Skype screen in front of me, somewhere in Asia. Right. I've always said there are no time or space limitations to the work I do, and that just proved it. Right. So yeah, so of course.
I mean, let's be honest, definitely, whenever you're learning in the same room as a master, you definitely are going to have a better experience, right? But of course, in that scenario, you're paying anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 one-on-one coaching, getting trained by a master. This one, we've made it affordable to the masses. And it's not gonna be as great as being in a room with Deborah, but it's pretty much there. And for those of you who are enrolling this week, as we launch this program on Mindvalley Academy, you will actually be invited to 4 separate live sessions with Deborah. These are going to be held on a webinar platform. You'll be able to write a question in the comments. You'll be there live with thousands of other students. Deborah will be there, and you will get that live interaction as well. So you're in for a treat. However, this is only for the batch of students that enrolls in this program in this particular week. Now, there's another reason why we want people to enroll as a batch. It's because we have built this program around community. You're going to have so many beautiful experiences, sometimes puzzling experiences. You will want to share this with others. And so we've built a community system where you will get to ask questions, share your insights, support each other. What we found is that when we wrap a community layer around this group of thousands of students going through becoming a modern master, everybody has a better time. They enjoy the program more. There's a higher completion rate. And this community ends up being a really good, supportive group of friends. When you enroll in Becoming a Modern Master, anytime this week, you get invited to our special 2017 class. You get 4 live trainings with Deborah, and you're part of a community of students going through this program together over 6 weeks. Now, everything is recorded, including the live training. So if you happen to be in an awkward time zone, don't worry, the recording will be available. But if you can show up live, that's fantastic. The core of the program is going to be a recording, and it will be available in Mindvalley Home. There'll be trainings and practices for you to do every week for 6 weeks. Now, following the program, you get a special bonus. Deborah wanted to make sure that you guys have a steady meditation practice to follow you in your life following this program, which is why you get a bonus program called Life Force Healing, which is designed by Deborah. It's a remarkable meditation program. You get that absolutely free. So you get a best possible price of the year by enrolling this week. You get a special further unlock bonus if you enroll right now on this page as a thank you for watching the masterclass. You get the live trainings with Deborah. You get the Life Force meditation bonus. And finally, you get to be part of this beautiful community going through the program together. So we invite you to enroll in this special program, join this current group of students, and immerse yourself in Deborah's amazing teachings. And by the way, as you guys know, here on Mindvalley, we want to make sure that everything we put out there is right for you. So you can actually enroll in this program, get started, and in 30 days, if you don't feel this is right for you, you can get a full unconditional refund with 1 email to support@mindvalley.com. So in a moment, I'm going to give you a special link where you can download the Violet Flame Meditation, that bonus gift we promised you that you would get if you stay till the end of the masterclass. And right now, while we have you here, we're going to do a quick Q&A with Deborah. So those of you who are scrolling down on the page right now, checking out the program and enrolling, stay back because we want to give you a quick welcome and give you a couple of tips on the best way to get started. So first off, here are some incredible stories that we got from fellow members of the Mindvalley community that enrolled in this program. I also wanted to share with you how Deborah's work is influencing the Mindvalley community. Meet Doug. Doug said, "I've been struggling with feelings of separation from God or spirit and my dependency on alcohol to numb the pain I had yet to come to grips with. It wasn't until I began energy healing with Deborah's program along with daily meditation that I truly began to heal and change." This story came from Christy. At age 5, she was sexually abused. At age 6, had open heart surgery. At 19, found herself pregnant. 2.5 years following her son's birth, her son tragically died. Christy sought Deborah for healing, and she said, following blind faith in a good friend, I decided to attend Deborah's workshop, not knowing anything about Deborah, only knowing I felt guided to. The healing that has followed since has been nothing short of miraculous. She said, I felt a peace and a gratitude, began to feel the emptiness as the numbness began to thaw. She said, I feel lighter, brighter, and clearer than I've ever felt in my life, feeling a sense of peace, love, and gratitude filling every part of me. This lady, Gail, said, since beginning Deborah's program, my transformation has been enormous. My heart has opened. I'm much more compassionate, patient, calm, and accepting of others. I thoroughly recommend Deborah's courses, realizing and experiencing how we are all one and all connected. And that's one of the cool things that starts to happen when one is exposed to Deborah's teachings. It's as if a lot of baggage that we've been carrying starts to get dropped and life becomes easier. Marsha wrote to say, I know that I'm finally making the right decision in my life because everything I've been doing and have been trying to do in the last 2 years have been supported by nature. This is the key to knowing you are walking the path meant to you. Now, I love those words, supported by nature. You can replace the word nature with the universe or God or whatever it is that you believe in as a higher power. When you drop the baggage, it feels as if things are lighter and the world unfolds for you in a more pleasant, beautiful way. Liz wrote to us to say the same thing. My life was in chaos, and now it's full of miracles and synchronicities. Through Deborah's energy medicine training, I learned that situations were only mirroring back to me what was going on inside of me. This brought in a greater frequency of synchronicity and daily miracles into my awareness, which is why many people say this is one of the best investments they've made in themselves. Grace said, I didn't know what energy healing was, but I signed up for it. And fast forward, it turned out to be the best investment ever. She was struggling with a dysfunctional marriage, alcoholic, violent, abusive, and controlling husband with financial problems. She said, I was living around a built-up wall called shame, pride, and jealousy. I started with Deborah in 2009, got hooked on her voice and her teachings, and fast forward, it turned out to be the best investment ever. Had it not been for her, Grace said she would not have had the courage to separate with her husband and reclaim her life. Now, even if you are a trained energy healer or you're trained in these arts, Deborah's work might have something for you. Milena Bigliota wrote in to say, I'm a trained spiritual director with a very rich spiritual emotional journey, which just deepened significantly in Mindvalley. Deborah assisted to clear out deep in utero trauma from when my mother had a car accident during her pregnancy with me and almost lost the pregnancy. I feel like the depths of this were washed away with a residual childhood sexual trauma, with neglect, bullying, and uterus imbalances gone. Thank you, Deborah, for extending your powerful love and wise intentions for us all. And finally, I love this one from a family in Estonia that took Deborah's training. Crystal Casalo wrote in to say, I'm especially grateful for the decision I made to participate in the masterclass with Deborah King, Be a Modern Master. The 6-week training has changed my life. I have noticed that it will help calm down the ego and give room for the soul to bring up the emotions which need to be taken care of, so the soul can be heard easier by the owner of the soul. This is the result of the 6-week training that I took with Deborah King. I'm a big fan of Mindvalley Academy. Thank you, Crystal, for sharing, and thank you all for being here. Now let's get on to the next step. Let's go through some quick FAQs. The first question we have is, how fast do you see results?
Vision students will see results in as quick as a week or 2.
And how can one be sure this is going to work for them? Does it work for everyone?
I've not seen it not work for someone. I believe that this works better if you have a meditation foundation, and that's why I bring that as part of the program.
Total time needed per week?
So it could be anywhere from 1 hour to 2 hours a week.
Is this something I can listen to in my car while driving?
Yes.
Okay, so the video trainings you can listen to in your car. Of course, you want to turn off video and just listen to it audio.
Right.
But then the practices you would do at home.
Yes.
And finally, tell us about the bonus, Life Force Meditation.
Oh, well, that's the same meditation that I was taught when I was dealing with cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And as I mentioned, I went to meditation school, to become a teacher of it. It's extremely powerful, and I promise you, if you just do it once a day for 15 minutes, you just lock it in, and it'll be just a matter of a few weeks, and you'll have this enormous base, this meditative base that will support your life, your health, and the sutras.
Thank you, Deborah. That was it for the questions.
All right.
Thank you all for joining us. Those of you who stayed till the end, here is your bonus. Right here on this page, you will see a link where you can download your own personal copy of the Violet Flame Meditation. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Really enjoyed it.
And guys, thank you all for tuning in for this masterclass. Hope you guys had an incredible time and learned a ton. And for those of you enrolling in this program, I cannot wait to see you get in and to hear about the results you're going to have with this remarkable teacher.
Hey, thanks again.